Hello? Yes, this is Red Hook 3-1, the old familiar ring, and this is Woody Close.
And Virginia.
And we're transcribing as usual from the familiar old kitchen of our farm home, Echo County, New York.
Woody, I wonder if our nice friends can hear Nicky and Kevin upstairs just home from school laughing and shouting and singing, and probably they'll pick out a trombone in a minute.
Yes, and our number one boy, Taylor's in listening on the radio to the ball game. He's mad about baseball. I don't know what's happened to him. All of a sudden, he's stopped being a little boy interested in such things as the radio offers for little boys, and he is definitely interested in nothing but murder mysteries and the Lone Ranger and baseball games, particularly night baseball.
Well, I know one thing he loves, though. It's Mutual's Adventure Parade.
Oh, good.
He loves that. He likes that better than anything, and I've heard that most of the kids of his age have turned to that, as well as a lot of grown-ups. He's very fond of it, but I don't know, I'm sort of fascinated with this baseball yen of his. I can't walk in the house that he doesn't ask me, what did the Cardinals do, Mommy, when you were a girl in St. Louis?
I thought I would die the other morning. When he went to sleep, he was listening to one of the night games when he went to bed the other night, and he didn't know how it came out. So the first thing in the morning he wanted to know was, hey, Daddy, what happened? And then all of a sudden, I had been down the village and got the papers, early in the morning. And there were the headlines on the ball games. And I've never seen such excitement in him. Really, this is a new development completely. And I suppose it's just another sign, Virginia, that we are getting older and older and older.
Stop sounding so old. I don't feel a bit older, but he is getting older, definitely. Sometimes I feel that he's older than I am.
I can remember when I was a kid, about his age, how I used to follow the adventures of Babe Ruth.
Oh, boy, yes. We were that vintage. And, he looks at us as though we had been members of the Pony Express when we say we were. Were you alive when Babe Ruth was hitting those home runs, Mommy? I said I was not only alive, I was just as excited as you are, but I didn't have a radio to be glued to.
It's a strange thing that today I don't even know who's on what team, and I don't even remember the names of the leagues almost.
Gee, they came down to breakfast the other morning giving 3 cheers and a tiger for Joe DiMaggio or something, and I just barely know who Joe DiMaggio is.
Look, dear, before we go any farther, just let me ask you one question. Yesterday afternoon, as we left the air, and I was dashing back to the tractor, which is running in one of the fields out below the house here, the telephone rang, and you haven't yet told me who telephoned.
Woody Close. If I have to go through this again, You know what? I didn't realize that you weren't listening to me until the other afternoon when I asked you something about a very important matter, and you said to me, well, that's the first I've heard of it. And I said, Woody, I told you the whole thing yesterday. And then you gave me a very frank and honest look. Out of all these almost 12 years of matrimony, it was about the frankest thing you ever said to me. You looked quite honest. You didn't apologize or be cute. You just said, I didn't hear a word you were saying, darling. I'm sorry.
I'm very sorry, but sometimes, I hear so much of this from the children and from you, if you'll forgive me.
Oh, dear.
And I have very important and very profound thoughts to think. So one develops a sort of a callousness about this. He develops an open hole on each side of his head, and the words just go right on through.
Yes, darling.
Sometimes one hits, and then you have to stop and pick it up again.
I have suspected for a long time that you weren't hearing a word I said, but I didn't really have it in writing until the other day.
What I want to know is who called? Your old friend Tom?
Never mind my old friend
sweetie,
Tom.
Look, now let's get serious about this.
Let's not.
Now this man, this old beau of yours, has been calling starting last Sunday morning. He's called every day. And what about it?
Well, he either misses me or something. I don't know. But anyway, I told you...
Are we having him up for the weekend?
Well...
I suppose we are.
Well, he said
Have you talked to me about it? I know. I told you to invite him, but do I really mean it? No, I don't.
Well, all right. If you really don't mean it, then you better say so, because pretty soon it's going to be Friday, and pretty soon it's going to be Saturday, and first thing you know, you're going to have to drive to Rhinecliff and meet him, because I'm certainly not going to.
What you mean is that you've already invited him.
No, I haven't. I wouldn't
I'll
do
bet
such
you
a
have.
thing.
Have you or haven't you?
No, you invited him.
I told you to invite him, but I didn't mean it, and you knew I didn't mean it.
When you tell me to invite people, I usually invite them. I always do what you say. I swore to love, honor, and obey, and I always obey you. Well, I told you who called yesterday. It was Mary Hoffman, and do you know what she wanted me to do?
What?
She said, Virginia, will you come over and squirt ammonia in Douglas MacArthur's eyes?
Well, as Dr. Sheldon, the vet, had said, yes.
Well, I said, Douglas MacArthur, and she said, don't be like that. You know it's our collie. Don't be silly.
Oh, of course. I was misled for a minute, too, Virginia.
You mean you really wanted me to squirt ammonia in Douglas MacArthur's eyes? Are you kidding? Well, anyway, she said that she had heard Dr. Sheldon on our show yesterday, and that he had said this was a fine cure for dogs that were chasing cars, and that their Douglas MacArthur, like his illustrious namesake, had one, was very dignified and very tall, but he had one vice. He chased cars.
You know, do you mind if I take issue with Dr. Sheldon? I'm sure he won't mind.
Why?
But I don't quite see the point of putting ammonia in the water that you squirt at a dog.
Well, he said
I think it's a very good idea to let a dog chase a car and then all of a sudden throw something on him, some water. I think that's all right. But ammonia water, why make his eyes smart? Why hurt the dog when you do that? I'm going to fight with Dr. Sheldon nicely, I hope, the next time I see him.
Well, no, you don't need to do that. You should have said that yesterday, but we didn't have time. We had so much to ask. I asked Dr. Sheldon, and so did you, if he'd come back again. Maybe you can argue with him again. But I said, Mary, don't you think this is rather an awful chore to ask me to do? I said, I love dogs. And she said, well, for heaven's sake, so do I love dogs. But I don't like Douglas to be chasing cars. And she said, if you just come and squirt at him, I'll drive the car. And I said, Mary, if I come and squirt ammonia in his eyes, the very next time that Woody and I come to dinner, he's going to take a nip out of my shapely, I hope, ankle.
And a very good thing, too.
Why, Woody, you think
Hi,
it should
Taylor.
be nipped? Hello, Taylor.
Hi.
How are you?
What's
Fine.
going on?
Well, I've been just fussing around.
Doing what?
Well, listening to the ball game.
Fussing around listening to the
Who's
ball
playing?
game.
What's going on?
Cardinals against Brooklyn.
Cardinals and the Dodgers.
Yeah.
It's a good game?
2-0 in favor of St. Louis.
2-0.
Why are you for St. Louis?
I don't know, because I was born there, but I still like it anyway.
You
whether
do?
I was born there or not.
You like the Cardinals even if you weren't born there, you'd like the
Yep.
Cardinals.
Taylor,
Well, for heaven's sake.
Taylor, when I was your age, I was just telling your mommy, when I was your age, Babe Ruth was the great star, and there's never been a ball player like Babe Ruth.
Who's your favorite, Taylor?
I don't know, there are lots of them. Harry Burkeen was pretty good.
Who?
Oh, the cat. Cat Burkeen.
Burkeen is a name I've never heard.
Oh, boy, am I up on my baseball and you're not? This is a wonderful moment,
Well,
dear.
I'm sorry, darling, but I'm one of the few people in this country, I suppose, who doesn't have any great interest in baseball. Why is that?
Because you're a football lover, and I am a girl who goes to a football... Girl, did I say? Well, I go to football games just hoping that I'll get out without freezing to death, and I don't care who's on top of who in the huddle. But I do love my baseball. Taylor, we're the same on that.
Taylor,
Yeah.
you look pretty neat and clean here. Did you have a haircut recently? When?
Oh, a couple of days ago.
Did
Pretty
he have a haircut?
wonderful, huh?
It's wonderful of you not to notice it for a couple of days. You kill me. You come home from New York and you say, don't those children ever get cleaned up until I come home? Don't they ever get their hair cut? So on a rainy day last week, I took them to the barber shop, all four of them.
Mm-hmm.
Not last week, in fact, the other afternoon.
Taylor and Nicky and Kevin and Christy.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it wonderful that he's big enough to go with the big boys now, Virginia, and have his hair cut, too?
Well, now, I'll tell
Must
you.
be quite a clam bake in the barbershop when you get in there with all four of them.
I don't know whether Foster Berger, the barber, considers it's wonderful or not. Do you know why? The other afternoon when we were there taking up all the available seats and barber chairs and everything else, about 14 customers kept sticking their heads in the door and looked around and they said, oh, the closers are here. We'll come back another day, Foster. And I said, gee, Mr. Berger, this is awful. We're chasing business away. One man came in and by this time there were two other little boys whose mother had the same idea, but the mothers had left the boys in the shop, so I was the only one sitting there and there were 6 little boys. This man said, oh, you must be Mrs. Close. Are all those yours? And I said, no, 2 of them aren't. He said, I'll be back later. Maybe Foster's going to make us have our barbering done at night.
You know what I think, Virginia? I think it's a pretty wonderful thing how you talk about the boys, our 4 top ones, and I realize constantly that this constant talk about them is nothing but pride in them.
Well,
It's a very
certainly.
wonderful thing in you, I think.
Well, every woman is proud. Every husband, every father, every mother.
Well, I realize I'm
They're all
proud, but I
proud.
didn't realize that you were as proud of them as you are.
Realize you're proud. Listen, you told me that you were in town the other day talking business with some men in radio in your other business.
Yes.
And then you casually let slip about 14 facts that you all had been having a great big brag fest about your sons. In fact, you must have spent the afternoon telling them that your 3 boys were going to Wisconsin, from what I gather. I bet they were thrilled to
As a
hear
matter of
that.
fact, it's a very strange thing, Virginia, how you can get a group of men around a luncheon table in some famous restaurant. We were in a pretty good one.
What
as
one?
it happened.
What
In
were-
Luchow's. The famous
Oh.
old German restaurant down on 14th Street. We went down from
In New
Radio
York.
City down there just to have lunch and you can gab quietly down there, you know. It's not such a hurly-burly as Midtown Manhattan. Anyway.
What'd you eat? Wait a minute. What'd you have to eat?
I had spare ribs and sauerkraut, I'll
Oh,
have you know,
boy.
and boiled potatoes and very good Boston cream pie and
Oh.
coffee.
How
and I rarely
fattening.
eat dessert, as you know.
Oh, you do, eh? Well, I've noticed your waistline doesn't look like it did when you were a boy, shall we say.
I'll have you know right now, Virginia, that in the 20 years since I graduated from prep school, it's exactly 20 years, almost tomorrow or the next day, my weight hasn't gone up more than 2 pounds in that whole 20 years.
Taylor, do you think your father looks any heavier than he ever did?
No.
I don't know. I haven't seen him when he was so young.
Oh, you've been looking at him for about 11 years now.
For 11 years now you've been looking at me.
Well, here's Nikki. Hello, Nikki. How are
Nikki,
you?
How are you?
You look nice and fresh, too.
Mm-hmm.
What have you been doing? Over there practicing on the piano?
Yeah.
How are you getting along with your music?
Fine.
You like it?
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Taylor?
Well, I like it all right, but it's fine. I like to practice.
It's an interesting thing to me, Virginia, that these children finally, after having got back on the piano, after having been off it for almost a year, are really getting interested in their music. And I think it's a very important thing that they stay interested.
Don't
How do we keep that
point
interest
your finger
alive?
at me like that. Listen to Kevin. I don't... Listen.
Well, it's pretty hard to hear.
I suppose it is, but I wish everybody could hear Kevin going through something like the Frog's Frolic. It's pretty wonderful.
Oh, wait a minute. That's Swan Lake.
Oh, is that
I hear
Swan
it.
Lake?
Yes.
Well, you know what, boys?
Swan's on the lake.
Nikki and Taylor, I got a letter this morning from your grandfather, Taylor, and he is so excited that you're coming to Green Bay, Wisconsin to visit him at his summer cottage that I think really that he's going to have a stroke before you arrive. He's so excited. And you know what he said?
What?
Well, he said, you and the boys have been asking me so much about our cottage that I think I'll tell you a little bit about it. He said the living room has a fireplace in it, and cleaning out the fireplace after big log fires at night will be a task assigned to whichever boy aspires to get his nose full of good oak ashes and his hands nice and black with the burnt remains of the logs. And he says bringing in wood from the garage for the fireplace also is one of the delights of being at our cottage at Point Comfort. How filled with glee I shall be to see sturdy arms and legs hauling in wood while I sit in my easy chair, escaping the rigors of wood carrying. But he says, I'm sure the boys will enjoy it, and he says, we're going to have lots of chicken for you. Do you like fried chicken?
Yeah. Love it. Yeah.
Well, he says he's making special arrangements with all the farmers in Point Comfort.
It's a pretty wonderful thing, too, Virginia, how these characters, our little men here, all decide that they love to do chores for Cranberry, and they can't seem to ever get up that enthusiasm around their own house.
I know, isn't it funny?
Cranberry said, too, he wanted you to mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm doing that around here. Yeah, but out there after you clean out the fireplace, all you have to do is say, can we go swimming, and just jump out in the boat and go swimming.
Well, you can do that here, too, down in the brook.
Yeah, but we haven't got a fireplace.
That's not like Green Bay.
Yeah.
How do you know?
I'm of Lake Michigan.
Taylor, you haven't been at Green Bay since you were 1 year old.
You don't know.
We have a picture in the album that shows you about as big as a poodle dog crawling along the beach trying to get in the water.
Well, Cranberry says in his letter, I don't know why we call our grandfather Cranberry. Well, I do, but it's a long story. Anyway, he says, the lawn isn't much of a lawn, but it's good enough for the boys to mow. And he says there are gophers and squirrels and dogs belonging to the neighbors that dig holes in our lawn in quest of other gophers and woodchucks. And he says there's a white cat that belongs to someone nearby. And he says Gertrude, that's my stepmother, spends half the summer going scat to the cat when it comes around. He says, but I understand why she does this because she has told me 9 million times that the cat kills our birds and we do not want our birds killed. That's why the yearly practice of going scat when the cat shows up.
I will deliver a long lecture on cats in the country one of these days, Virginia. Yes, Nicky.
I wrote a letter last night to Cranberry and asking what time we could get up to go for an early morning dip.
Oh, boy. I'll bet that'll be any time you wake up. They're very good about that.
Nicky is really the swimmer in the family, I think,
Yeah.
Virginia. He's long and lean, has got those nice, long, flexible muscles that mean good swimming.
Kevin?
Yeah?
Are you going to have fun, do you think? Do you think you really will be able to go that far from home?
I don't know. It'd be pretty lonesome.
You think it will, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think it
Kevin,
will.
I think, has a few reservations
I do,
about
too.
this long trip out to Green Bay all by himself with his bigger brothers on the train.
Maybe it's...
Look, Mommy, I'm sorry. We've got to get off
Oh,
the air.
that's too
Goodbye,
bad.
everybody. This is Woody Close.
And Virginia.
We've been transcribing with the children directly from the kitchen of our home, Echo Valley Farm in Red Hook, New York. Goodbye.
Goodbye.